used inconsistent with the memorandum of the association. It's a very serious issue. And without consultation and without the consent of the shareholder. Under which law, and I asked myself this question, can this ever be allowed? You close the account, that's the end of the matter.
You get the money, close the account, but
that's it, and then you spend it the way you want.
What's the next point?
The last point, but the fifth point, is that in fact it protects the nature of the scheme protects those who have committed a crime. I'll give you an example. Under the Prevention of Corruption Act, Section 7 of the Prevention of Corruption Act, you give money to a public servant. Members of Parliament are public servants. Many members of the political party who are in the fray are public servants. Now, as your Lordship knows, under Section 7, you can also prosecute a person in anticipation of a favor, not just having granted a favor. So you give a donation, no questions asked, you get a favor, you cannot correlate one with the other, and I can't prosecute you. This is a scheme to protect criminals from being prosecuted. Just read Section 7 with me.
Of the PCI.
Prevention of Corruption Act. This is also true under the PMLA. Because a predicate offense has been committed, it results in proceeds of crime. You'll never get to know. Rather than furthering the rule of law, it stymies it. That's the other Article 14 argument. You'll never know who bribed whom, how much was the bribe for, what quid pro was there. You'll never get to know. That there is quid pro quo, Malads, is in my first submission. That capital and influence go together. Malads, nobody can doubt that proposition, Malads. So in effect, through this scheme, you are trying to protect those people. Where the source of the money is, my learned friend has argued, I don't want to repeat anything that he has said. So you get access, straight away you get access. And all this anonymity that we're talking about is really not anonymous. Because the person who donates will go and tell him orally that I gave you such and such money. This is the amount I gave you, 100 crores. Only he will know that he gave.
The anonymity would exist only if it was truly fungible.
That's right.
In which case, if it's truly fungible, like a demat account, in which case, you give it to, say, the election.
Then it's anonymity.
And then it is, then it becomes anonymous.
That's right. Now it is not. In fact, it is not anonymous if you ask me. That's my submission. Because I have given 100 crores, I know that I bought a bond. My learned friend, Mr. Mr. Shant Bhushan said, no, he'll give it to a third person. Doesn't matter. But who is interested in that bond? The person who I bought the bond. So I will go and tell whoever I want to tell that I gave you. So he doesn't have to go to the State Bank of India. Let's talk practical politics. He doesn't have to go to the State Bank of India to find out. Nor does the State Bank of India have to disclose it. The person who gave it will disclose it. Because he knows why he gave it. So what is anonymous about this? We now look at question C. Frequently asked questions, FAQ, page 138. Question number 36.
128.
138, question 36. My lord has that? Who is the bona fide owner of the electoral bond? Okay. PDF 138. Who is the electoral owner of that? Who is the bona fide owner of that bond? Electoral bonds are bearer banking instruments. It's exactly what my lord the Chief Justice said. And the holder of electoral bonds is the bona fide owner of the same. Every scheme must have a legitimate object. What's the legitimate object here? Which is constitutional. The scheme must be such, it must be proportionate to the object sought to be achieved. And the underlying principle under the Constitution is free and fair election, which is a basic feature of the Constitution. How are you serving these three purposes, Malads? You are serving none of these three. No legitimate object because it is not limited to the elections. No proportionality because it's unlimited. And no free and fair elections because my learned friend has shown to your lordships how heavily it is loaded towards the party in power. So you are creating a non-level playing field through the electoral bonds. And that's violative of 324. Now, Malas, historically, as your lordship knows, Malas, in 1969, through legislation, we had Malas prohibited corporate donations altogether. And then 1985, Malas, through an amendment, we said, okay, the corporate sector can donate, but only to the extent of 5% of the average earnings in the last 3 years, 3 financial years.
5% or 7.5%?
I'm sorry? Initial 5%. Whereas 85 was 5%. Then through an amendment, it was 2013 Act, it was changed to 7.5.
2000?
13. The Companies Act. Well, actually, I've put it all in the written submissions, but because my learned colleagues are waiting for me to end, so I'm not wanting to take their time, Malas. Your lordships have said that do it, be as short as possible. But whatever I have said to your lordships, Malas, are the propositions that emerge from the scheme itself.
Mr. Sibbal's submissions are in which volume?
Volume 1.
Again, volume 1, right?
Yes,
Yes,
volume 1. All the submissions.
All the submissions
are in
are. Yes, we got.
And it's page 48.
48.
PDF 48. And if you just, I'll take few minutes, Mother, then I'll be done. Because my learned friends, I want to give them time too. The first, Miller's few pages are just the scheme itself, the electoral bond scheme itself, goes up to PDF page 63. My lords have that. It's just the elements of the electoral bond scheme which have already been explained to your lordships. So I will not trouble your lordships with that. That's been explained. But if you come to 63, then Miller, I deal with the issue of free and fair elections under the Constitution. And I say it's the basic feature of the Constitution. And it's now recognized that para 15, Miller, I say, as will be developed below, any nature of funding that is opaque and that seeks to hide the source of funding is contrary to the spirit of free and fair elections, which is part of the basic structure. That's the transparency argument, plus the free and fair in the context of which, in the context of my submissions before your lordships now. Then election is a vehicle of representative democracy. I've given judgments, Mullahs, page 66, and then para 17 at 66 is the constitutional mandate of free and fair elections under the principle of universal adult franchise is the central pillar of our democratic culture. Under our political system, elected representatives do not have any political legitimacy independent of the will of the people and must discharge their duties in public trust. But it must never be forgotten that this constitution is citizen-centric. It is for the citizens to decide to donate. If you want corporate funding, then that corporate funding must be for the electoral process. It must not be for political parties. Otherwise, it will not be free and fair election.